Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans. How's it going? It's not Russell, but again, you already know that. It's the voice of hardcore boxing. Back by popular or unpopular demand on free to our YouTube. It's the Hardcore's Hardcore. Where do I start? I'm just going to go straight in. I'm going to go in what everyone's talking about at the minute. It's Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn is a career welterweight. That's £145. Chris Eubank Jr. is a career middleweight / super middleweight. He's boxed at 159 and 168 at super middleweight in the Super Series against George Groves. It's going to be a catch weight of 155, 156. How is that safe? How is that safe for both fighters? A much bigger fighter against a much smaller fighter. The much bigger fighter has to come down and weight. Will there be a rematch clause in this fight? There probably would be a rematch clause, but when did the British Boxing Board of Control recognise catchweight boxing? I thought there was weight divisions for a reason. Is this going to be a catalyst in making fights? It just looks like a pure cash grab operation from DAZN. A pure cash grab, cash out fight for DAZN and Eddie Hearn. Are they feeling the pressure of the whole AJ thing? They need to generate money with DAZN. Is it time that they start needing to generate money? This fight will more likely be on DAZN pay-per-view in the UK. But what does it say, for Conor Benn? Conor Benn hasn't fought for domestic, English, British, Commonwealth, European. That there were, DAZN for 2 years were banging the doors down that Conor Benn was world class. He was going to win a world title at welterweight, but now they've completely U-turned on it and they're cashing him out against Chris Eubank Jr. At one stage, Chris Eubank Jr. was talking about fighting Golovkin, and at one stage his dad actually spoke about him going up and beating up Andre Ward at light heavyweight. So where does this come from? It just looks like they're just purely fighting off their dad's names and their dad's rivalry back in the 90s, and it's not a legacy fight for them. Would they not be better forging their own careers? Would Conor Benn not be better fighting domestic and winning a world title, challenging for a world title? Would Eubank Jr. not be better going on and trying fighting for a middleweight title against Charlo, or stepping up to super middleweight again to win a world title? No, it just looks like a pure greed cash out fight. A cartoon fight. It looks like a gimmick cartoon fight. What does that say for British boxing? It doesn't look good for British boxing. That they have to, sons of legends have to fight to generate some interest in boxing in the UK, and it doesn't look good. Who are they going to fight next? Are they going to fight KSI? Are they going to fight Logan Paul, Jake Paul? Where does it end? Where does it end from here? Will there be a rematch after this? If it gets made, how can the board sanction this? Does the board not remember Kell Brook stepping up and boxing Triple G? Look at the injuries that Kell Brook sustained in that fight, and was never the same after it. His career was never the same after that, and his career subsequently suffered because of it. Has the board not learned anything from this? This is a real shocker. It's something I don't want to see. I don't want to see, just because their names are of their dad's surnames, Ben and Eubank. Does it justify this fight happening from two fighters at two completely different weight divisions on a pay-per-view card? It's not good. It's not, to say it's not good for British boxing. What will the rest of this circus be? Will they wheel out Nigel Benn? Will they wheel out Chris Eubank Sr. in this fight, the fight in the undercard? It is a pure cash grab from DAZN and Eddie? And is it something that Eddie's had to do now, that DAZN need to do? DAZN now in UK have to start making money? You know, at what cost did they sign AJ? Did they have to dig into their own reserves? Because DAZN have been pumping millions and millions and millions into this platform for the last couple of years and hasn't made any money back yet. It's not good. How's the board going to manage this? What way is the board managing this now? What way are they going to deal with this? Because there's nothing like this has kind of happened before at catchweight. You know, Eubank is coming down, Ben's coming up. How can they determine that this fight's actually safe? You know, they do pride themselves in safety, but this doesn't look safe. It doesn't look good for boxing that fighters can just jump weight divisions and fight whoever they want for a lot of money. Will the fight happen in the UK? That's another thing, but will it be a UK fight, or will it end up in Saudi, like AJ and Usyk? You know, sport washing, just like the golf. I hope boxing isn't going to turn out like golf. All the pay-per-view fights end up in Saudi Arabia because they can afford the site fee, which is wrong. It doesn't look good. It's both the sport, you know. We'll, as much as we've talked about the YouTube thing and the whole YouTube boxing, this is kind of like a gimmick fight. Is there going to be more gimmick fights down the line? I hope not. I would like to see both fighters actually forge their own careers and their own legacy. This is not a legacy fight. You know, with the reason they're saying it's a big fight is because their dads had a rivalry in the 90s. You know, it's going to be all. You imagine the build up to this fight. It's going to be all about the dads. It's going to be all about them. And I suppose it will sell. You know, the casuals will buy it. I don't think I would buy it because I don't think it's fair in boxing. I would rather see Conor Ben step up the levels. I would rather see Pound Shop Roy Jones Jr. fight somebody like Charlo or Triple G. I don't want to see a bigger fighter call out smaller fighters. You know, he has been calling out Kell Brook for the last year, which doesn't make sense. He's a career welterweight. And for Conor Ben to step up and fight a much bigger fighter and Chris Eubank Jr. for what a legacy fight. It's not really a legacy. None of them have had a career-defining night yet. So it's not a legacy fight. You know, you could understand it if it was at the tail end of their careers. But how serious does this mean that Conor Ben, you know, was he not talking about winning the welterweight division, you know, fighting Ugas? As I say, does Eubank Jr., you know, was he not talking about Triple G? And his dad was actually talking about one stage him stepping up and fighting Andre Ward. How ridiculous does that sound now? It's totally cringe. It's embarrassing. It's bad for boxing. And I don't want to see it. I really don't want to see it. And it just looks now that DAZN really have to start making money. You know, they lost that whole Usyk and AJ fight to Sky. You know, because Eddie sold the rights, the site fee. The Saudis bought the site fee. That meant they had the rights to sell the pay-per-view. And they're recouping some of their money. Does that mean that Eddie will sabotage the pay-per-view because it's on a different platform and he's the promoter of it? Will it be the same type of undercard of Fury and Dillian White? Will it get 700 buys to 1 million buys? I don't know. I think AJ's a spent force now. I think 2 losses in, I think the whole interest is completely waned from AJ. He's a spent force. He's been knocked out by Andy Ruiz. He was terrified in a rematch and he's lost to Usyk, who came up a year before that at cruiserweight. So what did Matchroom invest in this deal? Did they have to dig deep into their pockets? Is that why they're selling part of their business? Will Saudi come in and buy a part of Matchroom? We don't know. it just looks like the landscape is kind of changing. We seen at time Matchroom were kind of had a lot of the power play. Now that BT have a really healthy stable, at the minute they have got like Dennis McCann, Hans Cherise, Nick Ball, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois. They have a great card at the weekend, Mark Heffron, Lennox Clark. That's a really good domestic fight. I actually fancy Mark Heffron to win that fight. British and Commonwealth title fight, which is good. That's what we need more of. We kind of see Matchroom have kind of, the last couple of years, they're more interested in promoting fights in North America, South America, fights across Europe, but domestically in UK, there hasn't been as much real top level domestic boxing. Sky have got a lot of good fighters as well. Sky have Adam Azim, who looks top class. They have got, the Olympians have signed for them. Joseph Parker signed last week. Not that Joseph Parker's going to turn their brand into anything super overnight, but they've got some good fights. They've got Hughie Fury against Michael Hunter rescheduled, and they've got that massive card coming up with Savannah Marshall against Carissa Shields. That's a brain fight. You've got Baumgardner against Michaela Meyer, and potentially Hannah Rankin against Natasha Jonas. So that's a really good card. It's free to air. So they're giving boxing fans something back there. And Eddie alluded that, Sky overpaying fighters at the minute, but maybe so, but I'm sure they're not overpaying fighters the way that Eddie was doing when DAZN was launched in America. And British fighters and UK world champions didn't want to fight in UK because they wanted to go and get that American money. You can't blame them. So it's kind of changed. It's kind of went full circle. That pay-per-view model that was flawed in America that Eddie said is flawed and they would break. They brought that into America and they're bringing it now into the UK with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. So it's all changed. Everything has went full circle. Everything's completely went full circle. I think it's pure greed on boxing. I don't think it's good. Will the board sign it off? Well, more than likely they will sign it off. What's the safety precautions that they're going to take? How can they measure that it's safe? What is the message that they're sending out there? It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for British boxing. And last week we had Del Boy against Kubrat Pulev, and it was a good win from Del Boy. I actually thought that he lost the fight. I thought Pulev nicked it, but you couldn't begrudge Del Boy getting that win. He hasn't won a fight in over 2 years. He's 12 losses. He's fought, Dillian White twice. He's fought Tyson Fury twice. He's fought Joseph Parker twice. He's fought David Haye. He's fought Vitaly Klitschko. Caballel, he had that shocking robbery against Robert Helenius. They're talking about Deontay Wilder. I don't think that happens. I think Shirley Finkel has alluded that that's not going to happen because he's 12 losses. They want to bring him back in with, I think the rumours are Martin Bucoli. You wouldn't rule out Martin Bucoli to pull up an upset in that fight, considering his last performance against Tony Yoka. Tony Yoka is another one of those Olympians that has been on the shelf, hasn't been as active. He served a drugs ban. Will Hrgovic could be the same. They talk about they're the bogeymen in the division, and you just seen what happened to Tony Yoka. I think that could happen to Hrgovic. His career's going absolutely nowhere. So we're next for Del Boy. It was for WBA Trinket. You look at the WBA rankings, Lucas Brown appeared in that fight out of nowhere before Junior Fab fight. You've got Big Baby Miller. He's arrived in after his £341 comeback win against Bracamonte, who previously fought Dave Allen. Or will they go for the winner of Ortiz and Andy Ruiz Jr.? Both of them have took a lot of damage in their last few fights. Andy Ruiz had been dropped twice heavily against Chris Arreola, and Luis Ortiz was dropped heavily by a jab by Prince George Martin. So they would be safer fights. I don't like that term, fun fight. I didn't enjoy watching older fighters like that take that amount of punishment at this stage of their careers. I would be okay. I think Richard from Rotherham said to me that, yeah, it'd be good that there were, if it was 10-0 fighters, but not fighters with that amount of miles in the clock, especially older fighters close to 40 with such hard fights behind them. So that's what I think. Will Derek Chisora maybe fight someone like a Lovejoy, who's been calling out absolutely everybody on social media? I think him and the Romford Bull had a bit of a 2 and 4 back in Twitter. But it's interesting to see. It's disappointing that boxing is turning into a pure cash grab, and it doesn't look good for the sport. I would like to see other people talk out about it. I think Joe Gallagher's the only one that's actually said that doesn't want to see a fight, that it's not in the interest of boxing, and I agree with it. Why is the other YouTubers not stating this? Why is 5 Live not saying this? You know, I think 5 Live boxing coverage is really poor. I think I'm sick of hearing Simon Jordan and Jim White let on and pretend they know about boxing when they don't. I'm sick of Jug Ears Oliver, you know, saying a lot but saying nothing. I'm sick of Addy the same, you know, he works for DAZN. How can that be neutral? And I'm sick to hearing Gareth A. Davis agree with everything, you know, that Tyson Fury says. So I don't like that platform, and they haven't stated anything like this. Adam Carroll's another one. I don't see any journalism that's actually highlighting any of this to this extent. And I think it's really, really bad for boxing. So it's a quick video. Keep on trucking, keep on supporting boxing, and peace out. Don't have nightmares.